cause you love rugby. So what you think of this X feed?
Right, welcome back to the XV podcast. We've got a new team for you today. So, Sean, do you want to tell everyone what the team is this week?
Yeah, so we're doing Nails 15 this week. And Dav and I have discussed this quite a bit because initially I think we were looking at potentially dirty players as well.
Yeah.
But I think we can separate dirty from nails.
Definitely.
I think some players are both.
Yeah.
But basically by nails, they can enjoy a fight. But I've also, well, in my 15, I've included players who can be kind of brutal within the laws of the game, or even take punishment really well, and just keep coming back.
Yeah, loads of my players can take punishment. Have ended up being take punishment, like players who you wouldn't expect to be getting so many international caps or so many sort of appearances, but they keep coming back for more, whether that be size or something along those lines.
Or someone who punches above their weight, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
And big hitters with or without the ball as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I got a few people who maybe have never been in a fight in their life, but they just smash.
But also, just fucking nails. Just fucking nails is the main objective.
Hopefully that comes across with the players we end up picking.
Yeah,
but I think I have got a couple of dirty players in there, but they're also hard in other ways as well.
Okay.
But we could do a dirty 15.
Yeah, we'll do a dirty. That's there's no rugby involved in that almost at points, is there? So, but yeah. Okay, so should we start at number one? It's a good place to start.
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't mind going first.
Okay.
So I thought of Tony Woodcock. So 110, 115 odd caps for New Zealand, always around, always looked. I remember him and Heymans, they were always sort of there, and they were always, end of the day, you've got to be tough to be in the front row for over 100 caps in international rugby.
And he scored a try in the World Cup final. Didn't he? Yeah.
Quite a nice little move through the middle of the lineup as well, wasn't there?
I never noticed.
A cheeky little lineup.
Yeah, it was a bit of a set play. I don't think I ever noticed Tony Woodcock until I heard Adam Jones talking about him on a podcast about a month or two ago, and him singling him out as his toughest opponent. So
yeah.
It's almost say no more territory.
Yeah, Adam Jones was the talker in our rugby dinner recently.
Oh yeah.
And I said to him, he did a Q&A at the end, and he said, "Who are your top?" I said, I've got you in the top 5 tight ends of all time. Who do you think you've got in there? And he mentioned people like Carl Heymans and stuff like that, but he mentioned his toughest opponents being Woodcock. So,
and he wasn't massive either, was he? So he
had that big beard. He's a grizzly looking guy as well, wasn't he? He was a tough looking and
big beard. Heymans did.
Yeah, I think he had a bit of a. Well, he was gruff, but now he's got a big beard. But the one I picked was Oz Durant. So, and I think
one. I'm not actually sure now.
Yeah, I think he was a loose head.
Was he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a loose head. But Oz Durant, and this comes down to somebody else who I've got on my list as well. But Oz Durant was thought of as one of the biggest, toughest guys in South African rugby. And yeah, when the Lions went out there in, what was it? It wasn't
97.
97. Was thought of as, you ain't going to get through Oz Durant. He's going to be,
Someone did though, didn't they?
Yeah, and somebody did. So I sort of thought of him as somebody who, was New Zealand media, and his reputation was he's the biggest, toughest guy in world rugby. But yeah, as we may talk about a little bit later, maybe wasn't the case.
It's inevitable.
He's another one, gritty, horrible, front row, South African front row in the 90s especially. You can't go far wrong when it comes to nails than that. You're getting into that front row in the late 90s, early 2000s. Well, even now in South Africa.
There are a lot of horrible nail South Africans, aren't there?
Big time. So yeah, I went for Oz Durant. So
okay. I've gone potentially a bit niche. I've gone Brian Williams. He plays in a I say famous, maybe within Wales, the famous Neath front row. He was a sheep farmer. He was an 11 stone prop.
11 stone?
Yeah, he was captain for Neath. And I've just heard loads of I think he's a bit of a cult hero because he was this lean prop who just used to hold his own against much bigger men. But he was also really dirty as well. I don't know, he was dirty and proper nails. He was, like I said, 11 stone. Even in the amateur days,
I was going to say
that is tiny for a prop.
I was going to say, like, and even when you look at some of the clips, back from the older days, everyone looks a little bit smaller, but genuinely, he looks absolutely.
Look at that.
That is absolutely tiny, 11 stone. How would you get away with that?
I think he's known as one of Neath's hardest, and Neath is a hard town in terms of the rugby players it produces and has produced. So that's my shout, but I get the impression that you might not have been aware of him. So
No, I'm happy with that though, because if you just type in Brian Williams rugby, you've got pictures of him bloodied, videos of him fighting.
He's a Western male ledge.
Yeah, like wearing that Leaf jersey's quite nails anyway, isn't it?
It's a great jersey.
Black with the white badge, like they call him, the All Blacks, don't they, of Leaf?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy to go with Brian, and we know that you need a Welshman in there early doors just to get him over the line.
And I think that early 90s Neath side was pretty dominant as well. They had, I think his name's Brian Thomas, who was a player in the 70s. But he was known as a bit of a taskmaster, like a bit of a kind of another cult legend coach. And I think it just all came together in the early 90s.
And at the end of the day, this is all about arguing your points, and you've argued your points.
Oh, thanks.
Far better than me. Okay. So Brian Williams goes in a loose head prop.
Yeah.
Neath legend and hard man.
Let's move on to 2. It's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Did you have any other honourables for loose heads?
No. Carry on.
Did I? No, I didn't. Number 2, I've got Bismarck Duplessis as an honourable mention. I've got Hibbard. And I think I got Hibbard in from your kind of explanation of why he was in Fleeting. Basically, I think this isn't verbatim, but you basically said he was around for about 2 years, smashed the fuck out of people and then left.
Yeah, literally.
Which is great. Trevor Leota is my number 1 choice. Some of the most brutal hits I've ever seen. None of which should be legal today, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He was... Imagine having to deal with him.
Yeah, and I had him on my list, Trevor Leota. There is a conversation out there where he is the hardest hitter rugby has ever seen.
Not anymore, but yeah, at a certain time.
Funny enough, I've probably got one of his teammates on my list as well. But like you said, none of those hits would be legal these days. They were always high, shoulder height.
I don't even know if they were legal then.
Yeah, that's very true. It was always but he always gave that whiplash as well. Like, he was so heavy as well. Even if you would hit him on their chest, the whiplash that was coming out of it. Not just that, but he looks tough as fuck as well, doesn't he? He's got that really short squat.
Yeah, that was on the core as well. That was just difficult to watch almost.
Yeah. I was hastening to talk about him in the Heineken Cup 15 in the last pod because I wanted to talk about him for the nails.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yes, he's won a Heineken Cup, but is he really anything to do with the Heineken Cup?
Yeah, you and young Rhys Edmonds gave it all Jamie George and John Hayes. Worst front row in the series so far.
Well, let's see if we get it. Well, what was his name? Simon Williams in the front row. Is this going to be a better team than a better front row in this episode?
John Hayes is the Darwin Jones of tight head props. Just shit and big.
I will give Leota his props though. He was quite a good rugby player at times as well. He was tough to stop. He was like a ball, wasn't he? He was really low centre of gravity and it was a good player.
Well, he was in that really successful Warren Gatlin, Sean Edwards Wasps team that won Europe and the league maybe more than once.
But I will go as far as to say he's one of the toughest players I've ever watched play. Yeah. So tough.
Yeah.
And the other person I had down, so I had Trevor Leota down. Did you have any other mentions on hooker as well?
Yeah, just Bismarck.
Bismarck.
Him and his brothers.
Yeah, him and his brothers were horrible.
That 2007 World Cup winning South African team that then beat the Lions, they were just, just horrible. Massive, horrible specimens.
Well, the other person I had down was, and we've had a little bit, so me and Sean often discuss some of the picks we've had, and I mentioned Kevin Mialamu, and Sean said, oh yeah, but what, Kevin Mialamu was, what's the sort of validation of him being nails?
He was awesome player.
So I did a little bit of research online, and I'll link the article. And I think it was Graham Henry came out when he was head coach of New Zealand and said, if you put all of those New Zealand players in a cage match or in a UFC ring, Kevin Mialamu would come out on top. And I was like, well, that's enough for me to say that he was absolutely nails. Maybe, and obviously there's the dirty play, which may go into the dirty side of things of what he did to Brian O'Driscoll on that Lions tour as well, with Tanner Umanga and breaking.
That was calculated, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely calculated.
But also, I can't imagine Graham Henry saying that sort of thing, unless it had to be someone else. If it was Graham Henry, I will obviously concede it.
Okay, well, we'll put Trevor Leota in because Trevor Leota is...
fucking nails.
Nails. Yeah, Trevor Leota is fucking nails.
We're going for the hat trick on the front.
I honestly think that Trevor Leota could be like captain of the nails. Like, he's the one who comes to mind instantly but instantly came to mind when we talked about this episode. Instantly. Right, let's go on to tight end. Who did you say the hooker was your honourable mention?
Bismarck du Plessis.
Yeah, so I've got Yanni du Plessis as my other option. That brotherhood, or that group of brothers,
band,
go down. They were nails. They were horrible rugby players.
So who? I'm just thinking now, like out loud. That South Africa front row. Who was the loose head? So if he was tight head, Bismarck was 2. No, John Smith was 2, wasn't he?
Yeah, John Smith would have been 2, but he would have been in.
Where was Bismarck then?
But he would have been in and out of that team, wouldn't he? Like, you kind of.
I guess.
But yeah, I've got Yanni du Plessis, and like those brothers speak for themselves. They were South African brutal, as in. But my
protein boys.
Another one I had on my list was Martin Castro Giovanni as well. I think, again, giving a little bit of love to the Italians, to be the tight end for Italy for that long in that sort of weak, sort of that team who was getting beaten so much, and not just that, being a really good player and quite a confrontational player. You could always see him at the front of things.
Yeah,
it was always the little, it was always Castro Giovanni with his long hair and his sort of big beard, and I always thought he was, one of the gritty reasons they didn't lose by 50 points. He lost by 30 points. He was always so committed, and so yeah.
But he was also part of a good, decent Leicester side as well.
Yeah, well,
he wasn't.
Like, again, we've talked about this before. Those Italians who used to get sucked out of Italy very early doors because they were amazing rugby players. So yeah, Martin Castro Giovanni was.
And he parties with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, doesn't he?
Does he?
He made out he couldn't play for some reason because he had some injury, and then some folks came out who's like in LA in some house party with Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Zlatan?
Yeah.
That's so good. Zlatan Ibrahimovic could literally be like a stretched out version of Martin Castro Giovanni, couldn't he? Long hair, beard, just like a longer version.
Yeah, well, Zlatan didn't even have a beard.
I found some pictures of Zlatan with a beard.
Okay. You done for tight head? Okay, so I thought Oz Durant was tight head, so I may be mistaken, but I've also said Oz Durant, but no, because of Scott Gibbs. You can't be nails and get sat down like that by a centre. I know I'm preempting some chat that we're going to have later. So what I've gone with, also maybe old school Welsh bias, and I feel like at some point we have to refer to that Pontypool front row. So I've gone Graham Price, just for the kind of the representative of the Pontypool front row. From what I've heard, obviously I haven't seen much footage of him. These massive English clubs with bigger men, I think like Bath, like Richmond back at that sort of era. Even like Coventry, I think they had like a really good side in the 70s. Like I said, much bigger, kind of heavier men would go to Pontypool and just have the worst time and get annihilated by Graham Price, Charlie Faulkner, Bobby Windsor, and I'm pretty sure Graham Price is seen as like the best out of the three of them.
Yeah, Graham Price is the name you remember from that Pontypool front row, isn't it? Like, you've got the three of them, but you always remember the name of Graham Price, and he probably goes down a little bit of like, probably the one who ended up becoming, Wales International Lions and stuff. I know they all did, but
I think he got the most caps, and he was like he was there for the
most
longest. And I don't know if you've been to Pontypool. That's if you're a posh English boy, whether you're massive or not, you go there, you're gonna get your ass fucking handed to you, basically.
Yeah, most definitely.
So that's kind of like a reference to old school Welsh nailsness.
I think as well, like, we talked earlier about the size of players back in the day. He did have a bit of a size to him as well. So he was probably, if you could have plopped him into the international game now or the professional game now, you put a bit of, put him in the gym and stuff, he could have probably handled himself. He was a big frame, large man, and obviously tough as.
Oh yeah, if he was put in like an academy at 18, like today's equivalent, he'd have been an absolute monster. And he was anyway. Also,
I've done a little bit of research in the background. Os Durant was a loose head prop.
Okay, fair.
So, front row done.
I've got Gemma Dav's misses glasses on.
They're my glasses. They're my sunglasses.
I got Dav's glasses on because the sun is really quite sharp in the eye.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely June evening.
Summertime in Cardiff.
In Rumney.
Okay, so we'll move on to our second rows. I got a feeling we're going to be quite similar on these.
We go for the combo?
Yeah, combo.
Okay.
So you go for your two and I'll go for my two.
I'd be amazed if you don't also name him. Number 4, Backy's Botter. He had his dirty moments, but he was... I don't think I can think of a player I would like to play against less than Backy's Botter.
Definitely.
Just pretty much as wide as he was tall. He loved all the little dirty tricks. He'd pick on players. Loved the fisticuffs when he could get away with it. I don't know. He's just the sort of player you would hate to play against. I don't know what else to say about him. He's the ultimate brute, isn't he?
Yeah, and like we've talked about his partnership with Matfield.
Yeah,
quality. Like I think the perfect second row partnership. You've got to have a brute, and you've got to have a sort of technician as well. So you've got to have your line out sort of technician man, and you've got to have your enforcer. And Bocky's Botha definitely falls into that enforcer role.
Yeah, it's almost like he invented it. He takes every box that you'd want from that kind of role.
Definitely.
And then my honourable mention, and Dav, you and I have spoken about this before. I think this is the first mention, honourable or not, I've given a player just based on a photo of them.
Oh yes.
There's this guy, and I think that there's a few kind of old school horrible nails French players. This guy Alain Esteve, apparently he was 6'9", which is ridiculous by today's standards. Where's the photo? There it is. Why would you even turn up to play against someone who looks like that? He looks like, not only does he look massive, but he looks like some sort of sicko as well. Look at that.
Yeah, proper Neanderthal look to him.
His face looks about 10 stone.
It's a 10 stone head.
10 stone head.
10 stone head
on a 6'9" body. Any other photos here?
Yeah, it's not someone...
that's an old school rugby physique, to be fair, but...
Yeah, it's not someone you want to mess with, is it?
I wouldn't want to even talk to him.
Yeah, and like, I remember you sort of messaging me about him, saying that he had like a mad reputation of being absolutely filthy as well.
I found the photo and I got really excited. I sent it to loads of people.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got one response from you.
Well, yeah, from me, obviously. Okay, yeah. Well, I like that. I think, that's...
It's got to be Backy's, though. Backy's is nailed on. I think he's the first player I thought of.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 5, I've got Esther Beth. I mean, he's as nails as he is a good player and decorated.
Well,
I mean, he's won 2 World Cups, but we can't go double South Africa.
No, but I think with Etzebeth, we talked about Bokkies Botha and Victor Matfield.
Yeah.
South Africa somehow produced a player who's got both. He's not just got the both the nailsness, craziness, and enforcerness around him, but he's also got the skill set. Line out forward as Matfield.
He's a freak athlete.
He is a freak athlete, and I think he's probably the last of that generation of true nail second rows. I think they're sort of dying out a little bit. You don't have that enforcer role as much in rugby anymore.
I'd have to think about that. There must be some coming through.
Well, coming through, I don't know, but he just seemed to be the last of that sort of role, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I've also got Martin Johnson as an honourable mention. I don't feel great naming any English players when I'm talking about, the types of players I love and enjoy watching, but Martin Johnson, you got to doff your cap of him. He was, again, that kind of... It's a cliche to use the word enforcer, but I can't think of any other word for it. He was never far from a ruck. He didn't need to be. He just showed his value in making horrible tackles, just all that nonsense around the ruck, just little digs, making tackles, hitting rucks, and he was, obviously a bit of a leader and quite intimidating.
Yeah, I agree.
And he won a World Cup for England.
To be honest, the only other person I had in there was Paul O'Connell, which we mentioned last week for the Heineken Cup.
Right,
so
yeah.
For me, I really do think, I know you said about not having 2 South Africans, but you've just got to put them in there. If they're fucking nails, you've got to put them in there. And Bokkies Botha, Eben Etzebeth, as a partnership in second row, that is the toughest second row you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to put those 2 in. Like, I would love to put Alan S. Stephen, but we don't know enough about him.
We're going on a photo.
Yeah.
Which almost makes me want to do it, but...
Right, we'll move on to our back row then. So it is my turn to start with 6. So I got 3 options. I don't know if you'll have any of them, but I've got Jason White, the biggest, hardest tackler in rugby. Well, I think in probably Northern Hemisphere rugby.
Before Lydia, I think he was the only player I can think of whose reputation was purely based around being able to tackle. I don't know if he did anything else. It's when Scotland were fully shit in like the early 2000s. But I think he's got a highlight reel of just munching.
Yeah.
Full on swallowing people up.
Yeah.
It was always quite... he'd never go low. He'd always hit people with the shoulder and just swallow them up.
Yeah, very... And, like, obviously, to be that when you're playing for, like, Scotland is pretty ridiculous. I've also got on my list Schalkberger. I thought Schalkberger was a pretty tough cookie. He always used to be... He was a bit of an enforcer within that South African team.
Hated him though.
Yeah, well, it's not about hate, is it? It's about who is the most nails player, and he ripped teams apart very often from being big tackler, big carrier, horrible cunt, involved in everything. And my other option was Jerry Collins.
Yeah.
Jerry Collins, again. Can you remember the story about Jerry Collins? It was like a rumour used to go around school before that he had done so much arms that his arms were so big that he couldn't tackle well anymore. So
we had to reduce his
arm size so he could tackle.
Yeah.
But I remember him coming to the Ospreys as well, and going into somewhere like Swansea Neath, and he was nailed at international level, and coming down there, it used to look like men versus boys at certain times. He was an absolute brute of a player. So yeah, they were my 3 6s.
He was part of that team in 2005 where they dominated the Lions. The back row was Jerry Collins 6, McCaw 7, and Sowialo 8.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Sowialo was underrated as a player, man.
I think he was rated at the time. Oh, he could have made fleeting because it felt like he wasn't around for long, but he was an all-round sort of perfect number 8.
But yeah, Jerry Collins. I think Jerry Collins is in the conversation as the perfect 6 as well.
Yeah, no, that's a fair call, I think. So 6 for me is the equivalent to the style points outside half, where we had like too many to mention. I think 6 is the ultimate like nails position for me, because it's pretty unfashionable. At 6, I think you've got to love that unsung graft, basically, of just making tackles, hitting rucks, just getting your stats up, and just letting everyone else, even the 7. I know people seem to think that a 7 is an unsung position. I don't think it is anymore.
No,
I think
definitely not.
I think in the forwards, the 7 is probably the most celebrated position. So I'm gonna.
I do agree that like 6 is one of those positions where you do get unsung heroes quite a lot.
You've got to make so many tackles as a 6. I think you could argue second row is similar as well, but they've got a more specific role in the lineouts and stuff. But a 6 has got a free reign to go around the park and just disrupt, essentially. So I've got loads for 6. My first choice is Gorgodze, the Georgian.
Played 8 a lot for Georgia, but if he was in a better team, he'd have definitely been more of a 6.
Well, he played for Toulon, which is a pretty
6,
good team.
Yeah,
and he could play second row as well.
Parisse was playing 8 at the time as well. Remember he came for that small time in Toulon?
No, I think I think Parisse came to Toulon after their golden era, but Gorgodze was kind of there in the thick of it.
We played second row as well. He was just a brutal guy, wasn't he?
He's brutal. He loved fighting.
In that back 5, second row, back row, can play anywhere. He was just down for the cause. Remember when he got that man of the match in the World Cup and they lost by like 50, 60 points to New Zealand? And
it felt tokenistic.
Yeah, it did, but he was stunned in the crowd. They're like, "Why the hell are they giving me?"
Yeah,
but like he was a very committed player, wasn't he?
He looks like a Bond villain.
Yeah, exactly. He does.
I'm just gonna rifle through the rest of them because I got too many. So I had 2 out of your 3.
Okay.
So I got Gorgodze, Jason White, Richard Hill. I have to say, actually, I don't know. I think Richard Hill should probably be my first shout, but I liked putting a Georgian in there. Richard Hill is, for me, the best 6 of all time in terms of what you want to see from a 6. Unsung. He just made everyone else, or he gave everyone else the opportunity to kind of stand out a bit more.
I think of that English back row, and I, to be fair, I do like Delalio as well, but I can imagine you liking Richard Hill more than any of the other players.
He was the man, Richard Hill.
He was the guy who was gritting it out to let everyone else play a little bit, wasn't it? And no, actually, it's so unfair because you had Neil Back, you had Martin Johnson. They did have a ridiculously tough squad.
Oh, that's to that England team. I don't want to dwell on this because it pains me to say it, but that England team, especially that pack, was absolutely awesome. Dan Barr.
Oh my God.
If we're talking someone punching above their weight, socks down, playing 6 for Cardiff, like in the late 90s when I had a season ticket with my dad, he would tip people over on their heads.
Yeah.
Maybe an average of maybe like twice a game.
Like
he wasn't a big flanker at all.
Dan Barr could get into a lot of our teams. Obscure nation, he played for Canada. Came over to Wales and played. Socks down is another one. Bald head.
We have to do a socks down.
We'll have to get him in the bald head as well. But you know the problem with Dan Barr was, and this adds to his nails aura, is he was constantly injured. He had those knee braces. He used to be both his knees would be completely knee braced up. And he used to go out there and just fucking smash people over and over and over.
He was a crazy player.
He was an absolute fan favourite, wasn't he? Cult hero, Cardiff cult hero.
Do you remember we had him and Gregory Katsala, the Polish?
Yeah.
Ooh, kakala. So, ooh, kakala.
Kakala. So.
I'll rifle through them because I'm spending too much time on 6. Have you actually got
more?
Yeah, I've got Peter Steph du Toit.
Yeah, he's more of a...
he wears a 7, but that's South African blindside, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he was player of the tournament in the 2019 South African World Cup winning side, and he was man of the match in the most recent World Cup final, and he nails Geordie Barrett a couple of times. He's a proper 6.
He's a freak as well.
He's awesome. But it's weird with a lot of these South African players. They were also playing in the teams that were losing to Wales regularly. Maybe not far off 10 years ago. But I guess that was them just underperforming at the time. Peter Steptoe, and I've also got Jerry Collins.
Nice.
7 next, that's mine, isn't it?
Yeah, you go 7.
Okay. This is boring, and I didn't love him as a player, but there's a strong argument for him being the best player of all time, and this is purely based on being able to take punishment. Richie McCaw was targeted by every team he played against.
Yeah.
He would get, probably a proper, like old school shoeing in the rucks. You probably get maybe 1 or 2 players almost man-marking him out of the game. There's obviously the conversation around him being offside half the time. But he would just keep coming back for more. He was absolutely relentless. And there's good reason why people still today, even though he's been retired for a while, talk about him as the best of all time. I'm not sure if he's the best of all time, but he's up there, isn't he?
Yeah, and
he was an unfashionable 7.
Well, I think if he's on your team, he's the best player ever. If he's on anyone else's team, which he was, he's a cheat. And he got that reputation in South Africa and Australia as being a cheat. But what do you want your 7 to be? You want him to be the best fucking cheater on the park, don't you? You want him to be able to steal balls. You want him to be able to, sort of change the rules and or make, the rules almost changed because of him. I remember when he was jackling at one point, he used to step completely over the ruck, put his back to them and pick the ball.
Some of it was mad. Like
some of the stuff. And like you said, everyone would absolutely think, right, we've got to get rid of Richie McCaw. And you can't stop him. And he would take hits. You type his name into Google and try and find a picture of when he was playing with his face is with no scars on or no cuts on or nothing. He was completely committed. He was the most targeted man in world rugby, and you just couldn't stop him. So my 7s, I had the man who was named Mad Dog, so Lewis Moody, an English 7 who, I know it's going to be even hard for you to deny that he was one of the most committed players. I remember him getting knocked out from a charge down before, so he literally knocked out. I know, there's a talk of, he got knocked out twice in one game, which is completely ridiculous these days, and it should never have happened. But he was one of the most committed 7s you're ever likely to see, Lewis Moody. But the one I went for was actually Jacques Westberger. So Jacques Westberger is
Namibian guy.
He's
in Namibia?
Yeah, Namibian player who played for Saracens. And Namibia have obviously got quite a lot of eligible rugby players, but he played for Namibia his whole career. And he's a little bit like Richie McCaw. You'll fail to find a picture of him after a rugby game without his face in absolute tatters.
I mean, the nose helps. I think his face always looks like it's in tatters.
Oh, but his nose, he must have broken that nose, 50 times playing rugby. But he was the toughest, hardest hitting player. I'm actually quite hastened to say one of the toughest players I've ever watched play rugby.
Was he always 7 then?
Yeah, he always played 7.
Switch between. Yeah, he's 7 in these clips that we're watching.
Always played 7. But he was I don't know whether it's that playing for a lesser nation and you've got to stand up and be a captain, be a leader, which he obviously was for Namibia.
You could argue that adds to the nails thing. It's like not just punching above your weight individually, but
for your whole country.
Yeah, because Namibia had to punch above their weight constantly in World Cups.
And even he could have probably, I assume he could have probably played for South Africa if he didn't play, or England if he'd have played there 4 years. But he was so committed and really pushed Namibian rugby. And I'm not being funny. He was just absolutely no self-respect for his body. Absolutely no respect. He would put himself into the most dangerous positions and absolutely smash people. So, yeah, Jacques Westberger was my 7 option.
I like that. I'd like him in.
Okay. So I think we've got our 6 and 7 to go. So should we name our 6 and 7s?
6 and 7. I'd like Gorgodze in there.
Yeah,
we both said Jason White, but Gorgodze is proper nail.
And then can we go with Jacques Westberger?
Yeah, we can. That nails flankers.
Right, let's go with number 8. You start with number 8.
It's your turn.
Okay, so I've got 2 number 8s, and we've talked about one before, so I'll briefly touch on him, which is Shabal. I tried to talk him into a second row position in our... in one of our pods.
Bullshit.
Yeah, but Shabal, as a number 8, he was a horrible, horrible man. And again, we've talked about it already. I would not like to tackle that man. Elbows and knees. You are getting your something broken when he's running you. His elbows, knees, he's coming at you. So I had him, but another Frenchman who had a number 8, and it comes down to, again, a little bit of a photo and a little bit of a moment, was Harry Anordaki with that broken nose.
Oh, yeah.
And him having all of that padding on and all of that on his face. And I love that idea that you've broken your nose, you should not be playing rugby. And he went, just add some more padding on, add some more padding on, add some more padding on. And it came out with that iconic photo of Harry Anordaki with literally the most padded, like you could, how he even saw.
It looks like he's post-plastic surgery almost, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then Biarritz, I think it might be Bayonne. The rivalries in French rugby are proper spicy. You see that clip of it really kicking off, like the whole team's fighting each other, and Harry Nordiki's dad coming in and trying to fuck people up, and he's not 60.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were my shouts for number 8. Who have you got?
I got a few. I had Shabal as an honourable mention.
Well, he's a fucking nutter for one, isn't he?
He's
Fair play to him. He was a nutter on the pitch. Yeah, but he like the thing on the rugby pitch was he was quite loose as well. Like you never knew. Did he understand rugby? Was he there to play rugby? He just seemed like he was fucking ballistic at all times.
The caveman.
Yeah,
and he loved he loved sort of weird reactions to hackers and stuff.
That hit against New Zealand when they cut it off like a kickoff and they ran straight and he just demolished someone.
In the same game, it was Ali Williams, and there's this footage of Ali Williams like immediately just that, and then he Chris Marceau knocks him out in a tackle as well. Same game.
And let's be honest, Ali Williams could be in the nails 15 because he was tough as fuck as well. He was a bit like a Bocky, trying to be a Bocky's Beaufort type second row as well. So.
He was I would say who was the other New Zealand second row? He came from League.
Not Brad Thorne. We talked about him in the Heineken Cup 15, which you obviously haven't fucking watched. Reece Edmonds, he hasn't watched the Heineken Cup 15.
I've watched most of it, but like I listened to Reece Edmonds talk for over 30 seconds and I just had to switch off.
Give me your 8.
I think he's got to go straight in as Henry Tuilagi, the butcher.
Yeah, fucking hell, he was a horrible man, wasn't he?
Talking about big hits either side of the ball, he is the most nails to Ilagi, and I don't think I need to say any more than that.
Yeah. Who did he play? Did he play for?
He's Prosolo's dad. You know the guy coming through now.
Who did he play for Biarritz?
Pepignon.
Pepignon, the worst kit of all time, wasn't it?
Stad have a claim for that.
But he was a big bloke. But he never got to like those sort of sizes of like Alessandro. He was always like a quite squat, short bloke.
Well, he was bigger than Alessandro as a winger. He was much bigger.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He was always like that big guy. But again, he was just quite a dirty player as well.
He was pretty dirty. He had a lot of cards. But like I said before, some players are hard and dirty.
Yeah. Okay, so
he was one of them.
Who do we go for a number 8?
So I'll just go for my honourable mentions quickly. Dale McIntosh, the Chief.
Andy Robertson. He's a bit of a 6 as well, but yeah, Dale McIntosh.
I got Chief, Shabal. My last honourable mention is Buck Shelford, who was I think he was like the New Zealand captain in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. The only reason I'm including him is because apparently in a game against France, his actual bollock fell out. He went off the pitch, they stitched it back in, and he came back on.
Yeah, I remember my dad telling me that story, and do you know what they said to him, the physios?
Something nuts.
Don't rub him, count him.
Yeah.
So apparently, yeah.
That's proper rugby dinner.
After dinner conversations, yeah. Buck Shelford, okay, cool.
I haven't seen enough of him to say much more, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to hear some of these, like nails especially. There's probably so many because it's a little bit before our time. It's like we're like pro game forward, haven't we?
I mean, all rugby players are nails, basically, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. But pro game forward, it's progressively got less and less nails, would you say? From 70s, like from the 60s.
If you took a prop now who was conditioned like they are, they would batter any hard player from the 70s.
But they played a different game back then, didn't they? They played a different fucking game.
Dirtier.
Classic Penny try.
Okay, let's move on to halfbacks. Do you want to do halfbacks as a pair, or do you want to go 9?
No, let's do a pair. It's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah, your turn.
I struggled for 9, maybe understandably because it's the funniest position on the pitch. But also, you could argue you've got a lot of people who punch above their weight because they're generally smaller and have to, deal with bigger men.
I think that's the angle you've got to go for. That
I suppose so.
punching above
Yeah.
their weight.
So again, this might be niche, and we may have gone. We got Brian Williams and Graham Price. I've gone for another pooler guy who, as I understand it, didn't get enough Wales caps and ended up going to rugby league. Is Di Bishop?
Okay. Yeah, I've heard his name. I've definitely heard his name.
He was Craig Bellamy's best man, and they met by having a fight in a pub in St Mary Street.
Yeah, okay.
It was the Philharmonic.
So Ebbw Vale Rugby Union, Pontypool Rugby Union, and then move over to Hull Kingston Rovers, and then London Crusaders. So we obviously moved over to rugby league.
I'll move on because I don't have many convincing kind of arguments for any of these scrum halves. It's almost like placeholders. I gone Troncon just because he looked nails.
Yeah, Troncon did look nails. The thing about Troncon is
he doesn't deserve to be mentioned twice in a 15. He was in our scrum cap 15.
Yeah, he was, but like you said, he does look horrible. And like again, a bit like Castro Giovanni, he was tough in that Italy team. He was one of those tough guys, one of those stand-up men. Like there was a lot of shit around him, but he was probably, you could put him into a good team, Troncon, and he would get away with it.
Yeah, and I suppose you could say that any scrum half with decent service, if they got a good pack ahead, in front of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We're looking, for people just listening on audio, we're looking at a photo here of Troncon in this Italy kit. I don't think I noticed at the time, that Italy kit is absolutely outstanding.
Banging.
But a massive Kappa logo on it.
Do you know what? Like, at the moment, France have got because they've got a cockerel, and they've also got the coq sportif. And like, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
It's two different designs of cockerel, isn't it? I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's Le Coq Sportif.
Yeah, but I love this France, but it's like it's almost the same either side, trying to like outdo each other. With that, for instance, it's Italy flag one side, Kappa old school the other side.
It's that stretchy material that kind of had its time.
And only Italy, because Italy was so far behind in rugby. They had like football tops a lot of early doors, didn't they, when they were getting into it? They had like the more like stretchy, like they were a lot fitted. They were quite ahead of their time.
I was about to question that, but you can imagine Totti wearing that, couldn't you?
Yeah,
I think they had a similar Kappa kit at a similar sort of time.
Roma Kappa, yeah, exactly.
I've also got Terry Holmes, the guy basically keeping Di Bishop out of the Wales team, him and Robert Jones.
You are fucking Wales
Terry Holmes.
Sluts, mate.
There's loads of fucking nails Welshman, that's why. He was a proper working class Cardiff boy. He was 6'1" scrum half in the 80s.
Yeah, that'd be big.
Really unusual.
Big, yeah. And it says here he had 215 caps for Cardiff. So he won. Well, he's obviously a legend at Cardiff, but like a one club man. Like you love a one club man. I absolutely love that.
And he was he went to rugby league as well, Bradford Northern.
And I think he was a bit of the next Gareth Edwards type thing, wasn't he?
Looking at the years he played for Wales, 78. So he would have been the next guy afterwards.
And
then I guess Robert Jones after that.
Yeah.
Who'd be after Robert Jones? Oh, it's fucking Howlers, isn't it?
Robert Howley. Would it have been?
I guess.
That feels like a 30-year span and 3 scrum halves, which is mad, isn't it? But it's probably right.
Yeah. Mike Phillips, honourable mention, but you know,
Mike Phillips got to get a shout. He is tough as fuck.
Big guy though, isn't he? It's not.
Yeah,
he's not like
yeah.
he would fight forwards, but it's not like a scrum half who is 5'9" fighting
No,
forwards.
but
he was.
Yeah, but he's like an extra
like
back
flanking.
row. He's
Well,
like an extra back
that's what
row.
I mean.
And that's nails, isn't it? To be like,
I suppose, yeah.
the amount of times, right, you could pick the ball up from the base, dummy, and think, fuck it, I'll go anyway, and run into traffic, absolute traffic, and come out better than. Like
You spoke about how hard Mialama was. There's definitely a clip of Mike Phillips dumping Mialama on his head as well.
Yeah, Mark Phillips definitely gets an honourable mention. I like that.
Who are your nines?
So I've got one who used to tackle the biggest, baddest man on the planet, George Gregan. The amount of clips around of him tackling Joe Nalomu on the wing, Joe Nalomu running down the wing, and it's George Gregan versus Joe Nalomu. And George Gregan was one of the smallest, probably, rugby players on the
It was
pitch.
a sort of standard nine size, wasn't he? But there's also, and I don't know if you're about to mention this, I'm sorry if you are, but there's definitely some story about him playing on with a broken arm as well.
Yes, yeah. And, again, he was someone who had loads of caps. But it wasn't because he was hiding in a line, he was just delivering balls. You know, there's lots of clips of him making really try-saving tackles. I put a clip of him tackling John Lamu, on the absolute charge.
That's peak Lamu as well. He's one of the greats, Gregan, as well. Aside from being nails, just... he won the World Cup in 99. I don't think he was around in 91. I think he might have been one of the first players to get 100-plus caps as well.
Well, when we used to coach in rugby, there used to be a move where the scrum half would pick up an inside ball to a forward coming on the blind side.
Hugh Day and I used to love that.
That was always called an Australia or a Gregan. Like, he is like, he made that his own, didn't he? He looked like he was going to pass from the base of the scrum inside to a forward, and he would,
We're watching a clip of him in the outside half position, getting a drop goal against Ireland in the World Cup as well. Yeah, just one of the greats.
Yeah, and the other one I had was Byron Kelleher, because Byron Kelleher, as a 9, was just tough. He was tough. Like, you had your, Justin Marshalls, who was like a bit of a, ball player, good role player. Byron Kelleher was just tough. He loved tackling, he loved getting off the line. His skill set probably wasn't as good as some of the other 9s, but he was a really good, tough, abrasive sort of scrum half. So I had Byron Kelleher as well as my other 9.
I like Byron Kelleher as a shout. I'm not that convinced by any of my own calls, so you can have Gregan if you want.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Because I have battered you from 1 to 8.
Okay, so scrum half done. Let's look at fly half. If anyone's asking, Sean is watching Toulouse versus Bordeaux in the playoff. Is it semi?
No, it's the final.
The final. So the Pro 14 final. We've got this on in front of us. Toulouse obviously smashing a competition. Okay, so we'll go to 10. So I've got your worst nightmare. I've got 2 Englishmen in there. So I've got Johnny Wilkinson and Owen Farrell.
St. Johnny. I've got Johnny Wilkinson in there as well.
And Owen
you go.
And Owen Farrell. So,
no.
What do you mean, fuck no? Owen Farrell, revolutionised that England team. They were, quite soft. They weren't going through it. He came in as a rugby league. His dad came in, obviously. And he really toughened that team up and made them a real contender. They got to a World Cup final. Got to a World Cup semi-final 4 years later. He was obviously at the helm the whole time. One of the biggest hitters, yes, illegal. But we've loved illegal hits up until this time. If he was born in a different generation, we'd have been all over him as a number 10.
If he was playing in a different generation, he wouldn't get a look because his skill, because he didn't suit that kind of.
Yeah, but he was.
That era.
I still think
that style for that era.
I still think his time in rugby league has made him a really tough, hard, male sort of player.
He played rugby league till he was 12, and then went to Saracens Academy.
I think it was later than that. But anyway, I've gone with Johnny Wilkinson because probably the best defensive 10 of all time. Think of the best 10s of all time. You think Johnny Wilkinson, you think Dan Carter.
Johnny Wilkinson I agree with Johnny.
Johnny Wilkinson was the toughest defending 10 of all time.
I just remember that hit on Entomac, but it was a mad hit. Regardless of which position the player who did it was in, and coming from a 10, and Entomac was a big guy as well. Look, he's a 10. There's a compilation we got on YouTube now of Johnny Wilkinson big hits. To be a 10 as well, a compilation of big hits is pretty mad.
Well, he was so committed, and I think towards the end of his career, sort of it was his detriment because he got a lot of injuries, didn't he? But early on for England, you'd see him covering the backfield, hitting people in the touch. Like he was the most committed back, probably you're likely to see, and the toughest. Well, for me, the toughest, most nails 10.
What a player! Any other mentions for 10? You got two English guys. So Johnny Wilkinson was my first, so I guess he's going in. I got Arwell Thomas for that punch.
Yes, okay. I'll put this clip in.
Even though he was obviously a bit of a fanny, but
yeah, Arwell Thomas. Arwell Thomas
against
Italy. So
France.
Against France. There's like a bit of a ruckus. It all finishes. And Arwell Thomas, who was a 10 for Wales back in, and he was only 10 stones soaking wet, wasn't he? And he turns around and just knocks this guy out.
Really clean
knockout.
One punch. Some people just have, regardless of size or strength or whether they're nails or not, just a knockout
timing,
punch.
Yeah. And I wonder. I also wonder whether it was completed out of luck at times as well.
I think he just caught him on that.
But he gets an opportunity. He was actually, I think he's playing. He knocked out the French scrum half there as well.
Deserved it. I've also gone. I just made a note. I considered Butch James, but I actually think he was just dirty. So it's St. Johnny, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mentioned in the pod with Reese, because we put Johnny Wilkinson. True. We put Johnny Wilkinson in to the Heineken Cup 15, and he said, "Oh, I know he's a." It's hard. It should have been O'Gara. No, but it's hard to dislike Johnny Wilkinson as well, though, isn't it?
No, like
really.
Always, St. Johnny.
Oh, I love it.
Ultimate public schoolboy.
Yeah, but like Wales weren't really competing back then.
The golden boy of that England. Well, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, but I've always enjoyed the way he's played rugby. He's always been committed. It's like it's never been a player who's standing on the coattails or on the shoulders of giants. He was always, even though he could do all the kicks and stuff, he was full on. Let's fucking go for it. Let's be confrontational. I always liked that about Johnny Wilkinson. Fair play. Right, okay, let's go on to our centres. Is it my turn or your turn?
I can't remember. I think it might be mine.
Okay, so you go first.
So this is a callback to Oz Durant, and the reason Oz Durant can't make the team is because Scott Gibbs was a bowling ball of a 12.
Yeah.
It feels almost too obvious to mention the try against England in '99, which was like magically my first ever game of live rugby, and I was behind the post where he scored against England, so I was never ever going to...
Oh, you were there in Wembley?
I was behind the post, that's my first ever game. So I was never ever going to like any of the sport in the same way. But the iconic thing, and the reason he's in the Nails 15 is because he made mincemeat of supposedly the hard South African prop from a coming from a 12's point of view. Yeah, and like, if you search on YouTube, Scott Gibbs. There we go. It's actually got, someone has put up a video of 20 minutes of Scott Gibbs smashing on Oz Durant over and over and over. I'm going to watch that later. But it is iconic, isn't it? Like that moment where he came back on the switch, ran straight into, like you said, the South African hard man. Supposed hard man. Sat him down. Obviously a pussyo. To the point where I think this might be my only position I got no honourable mentions. It's pointless. It's Scott Gibbs. I don't know. I wasn't around or watching rugby before that kind of late 90s era. Yeah. I don't know what the classic 12 was before that, but I'd imagine there weren't many 12s like... No. Bit powerful crash ball 12s. No, and before Scott Gibbs. Not just that moment, but he was a big hitter. He was a hard carrier. Definition of squat. He was tough to stop. Again, he probably played in a pretty bad Wales team. But so some of the names I've got.
Yeah, Scott Gibbs, and we got a
Although you look at some of those names, there were lots of good players in that Wales team. Scott Quinnell, fucking hell. Scott Gibbs, Howlers. I regret saying Howlers already. Neil Jenkins, Jarvis, you also had Mark Taylor.
Yeah, different times, all of them, though. Like
Peter Rogers.
So, my 12.
Ben Evans.
So, one player I had as my 12 was Jamie Roberts. And for one reason, playing against Australia in Melbourne Stadium.
Yeah, good shout.
Fractured his skull. Literally fractured his skull.
Yeah.
Going head-to-head with Sterling Mortlock.
And that's a big head.
That's two big heads
massive
colliding.
Fucking
And
craniums.
carried on playing until he got, like, this is before HIA, before these sort of times.
Well, do you know what? Do you know why he came off at the point he did? Because he's a doctor, he can recognise this.
Well,
he said he
this
came
sounds
off.
like an urban myth. This sounds like I'm not going to say.
It's a quote. It's a quote from
he
James
could
Roberts.
taste his.
He could taste his own brain fluid.
Yeah, I don't know how you know what that tastes like ever.
Well, I don't know. If you study medicine for 7 years, there's probably some reference point, isn't there?
So anyway, I had him as an option, but right, here's one which I think
he was massive though, wasn't he? He just punched his weight.
Yeah, here's one you might appreciate a bit more.
Oh, Brian, the chiropractor.
The chiropractor.
Oh God, yeah.
You will never. We talked about Trevor Leota and the biggest hits. Brian Lima, the chiropractor. You will not see a bigger hitter in world rugby in history than Brian Lima. They nicknamed him the chiropractor.
I completely
that
forgot
hit
about
against
South Africa, DeWet Barry.
In the World Cup.
I think it was it might be Derek Hogard.
That hit in the World Cup against a South African 10. We'll find out who it was. But
it's probably the best example of a hospital pass you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Again,
Hogard, you were correct.
Here we go. Was it Hogard?
Do you know what I love about this hit? And we'll watch it now. He makes the hit. He whips up onto his feet.
Yeah, he's ready for.
He wants the next person.
Yeah.
Like when you put in a hit that big, you're literally looking
right in the ribs, isn't it?
So, yeah, for me, when you get nicknamed the chiropractor and you put in hits like that,
I think
how many are legal these days? I don't know, but
I was so confident with Scott Gibbs. I think it is Brian Lima. Brian Lima's in.
Yeah,
Brian Lima's in, man. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so 13. Who have I got for 13? I've got 2. So again, the first one is a moment. So I got Manu Tuilagi for that punch on Chris Ashton.
What? Yeah, but also his general play. Yeah,
obviously. But we talk about nails, and he's obviously a nails play from the Tuilagi family.
That's horrible. That clip.
Yeah,
that slow mo.
The slow mo way runs up, slow like.
You see Ashton's cheeks rippling from the...
And Ashton's almost surprised. He looks at him like, did he just punch me?
Didn't drop him, though,
didn't drop him, yeah.
I haven't even got to my sentence yet, but my 12 has been usurped by Brian Lima because I thought you made a really good argument for him. So mine was Scott Gibbs for reasons we've already said. 13, I got Manu Tuilagi. You mentioned the punch, but Manu Tuilagi was a nasty 13, and he still is. Manu Tuilagi has a highlight reel that could go on for 10 minutes of him smashing people in the tackle and also with the ball. He's been really unlucky with injuries. He was that effective that he could be injured for most of the season. Eddie Jones would still pick him in his squad and even shape a team around him and pick a 13 based on Manu being there at 12 because that's how much of a monster he was. There was that game against New Zealand. This might have been pre-Eddie Jones, actually, but where England beat New Zealand for the first time in a while. And he was the difference. So, look at him smashing the back rows on this video we're watching. Brian O'Driscoll's my other 13 because he was a small guy, and I think my lasting image of Brian O'Driscoll was that hit on Brasseau in that brutal Lions tour 2009. Probably illegal. I think it's worth pulling up. This sums up that Lions tour, the brutality of this hit on O'Driscoll. Look, he's scanning somewhere. There he is. Look at this. Comes from nowhere. Look at this.
Oh, yeah. That would be a red card now, wouldn't
Of course it would. It should have been a red then. So I think my winger selection, I can't fully remember whether one's left and one's right. I think probably both of my winger selections play either side. So my left winger, this is purely to do with his ability to just nail people with the ball in his hands, is Joshua Tuisova.
Okay, yeah, good shout.
The most mental physique I think I've ever seen in rugby.
Yeah.
There are loads of YouTube videos of him just running over people with ball in hand. He's not that big in terms of like weight and height, but he is just like he was built in a lab. He's pure muscle and brutality.
I remember his welcome to the World Cup party, and he sat down Josh Adams and scored in the corner.
Well, yeah, he sat down. I think it was Josh Adams and then Navidi, who is obviously a nails guy himself and bigger, and laid it in the corner.
He did that, and then they kept using him through the middle of the park. They kept using him to centre, just running these channels. And he is such a hard guy. Was he too long? He played too long.
And now he's at Racing now, I think.
Yeah, he is I like.
We're apologies to the people just listening on the audio. We're basically just admiring his legs on the video.
Yeah, he's a huge guy, and like he's so squat and short. Like that is so good in sport, isn't it? Being like low centre of gravity, and especially in rugby, trying to stop someone with low centre of gravity. He was so hard to stop.
Best calves in sport.
Yeah, when he was at Toulon, it was just past their peak, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. He wasn't part of any like European.
But he was still a great player.
So I've got Tuisova, 14, and this is potentially controversial. I got Liam Williams, the ex-scaffolder, didn't go through the traditional routes. He just made it to the Scarlet Academy, I think, early 20s. He was working on a building site for a couple of years before that. I'm assuming a lot of our listeners are Welsh, and I don't need to explain how hard Liam Williams is to them, but anyone else, I implore you to watch some highlights of the way he gets stuck in. He's a little bit dirty sometimes, but he's that wiry frame. He's a skinny guy.
Yeah.
By professional rugby standards, but he absolutely loves getting stuck in and basically like fighting players and big hits.
Well,
aside from the fact he's an incredibly skillful, unique type of stylish player, I love everything about him.
Early doors, he had a bit of reputation, didn't he? He got a couple of red cards quite early on, and I think that probably helped when Gatlin was trying to pick him, because he was like, he's a committed player.
You can imagine Gatlin loving him, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And then, because we mentioned him on the Heineken Cup, like...
I think because of Halfpenny, he played loads of his first, 10 or 20 caps for Wales on the wing. He's probably not quick enough for a wing, but he brings so many other things to the game. He's so good in the air. He's so skillful. His hands. He's a good footballer.
Well,
he's a really fun player, Liam Williams, and I think he's another one we'll miss when he's gone.
Yeah, but we're talking about nails, and
you watched this at my house.
Yeah, we did, and we got we thought we had beaten South Africa.
I think we were about to go on the piss, and then that happened, and we lost the game, and I think I just kicked you out because I was so upset.
I went home. But yeah, he's had lots of red cards. He's obviously a very committed rugby player. I would definitely agree with the nails, 15 for Liam Williams.
Okay, cool. I've also got, and this is purely on some footage I've seen of him as an 18-year-old fighting about 5 men on the pitch, Matt Banahan. So we're watching some fairly amateur footage of Jersey, and Matt Banahan is throwing uppercuts like he knows exactly how to fight, and then there's some hooker try starting on him. He looks like a cage fighter.
Well, how tall was Matt Banahan?
He was massive for a winger, and that's not really coming into it. The only reason I mention it is because this footage of him, and I think he was about 18 or 19, as a winger, just throwing really professional-looking punches against grizzled front rowers and just flooring them.
I like really professional looking punches.
Well, the way he was uppercutting, he looks like he's fought before. So fair play to him.
Right, so I name my wingers then. So my wingers are. We've mentioned the family a few times, but Alessandro Tuilagi.
Yeah, okay.
So, can you remember the Battle of Twickenham?
You talking about Leinster?
No, England versus Samoa at Twickenham.
Oh, did he hide?
And there was all those red cards.
Someone out in the air.
Yeah, Lewis Moody. I think Alessandro Tuilagi got sent off. It was like an absolute bloodbath. But not just that. His whole career. I remember his battles with Shane Horgan on the wing for Leinster.
That's what I thought you were talking about, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They used to go at each other. I've never seen him shirk a battle. If anything, he would be the reason for the battle. He was the toughest winger. Catch a ball, fucking run straight. He like the most physical winger. Apart from, I'm thinking Vinocolum.
Oh, Leslie
Vinocolum, but he's the most physical winger I can ever remember.
Well, we had his brother at number 8, and he wasn't much smaller.
You're getting close these days to naming a team of Tuilagis, aren't you?
But I think it's deserved, isn't it? If you talk about nails,
Amazing.
They struck fear into more or less anyone they played.
What you've got to remember is I was at Leicester team. So that Leicester team not only had a really dominant pack, but they had that back line with Alessandro Tuilagi on the wing.
Martin Corrie.
The blood. You'd always have that bleeding nose, wouldn't he? But,
extra posh.
So yeah, I had him on one wing, and the other wing I had...
Yeah, nice. I like that.
I had Julian Sevilla. So, again, it's not very nails, but he was such a tough player for a long time. He's now playing...
It wasn't that long.
No, it was quite...
It's fleeting.
Yeah, pretty fleeting. He's now playing for the... what's the Super Rugby?
Well, it was Moana Pacifica.
Moana Pacifica. And I quite like that he is the all-time leading Super 14 rugby try scorer.
Yeah. Super 14's a dated reference, but I like it.
He was one of the hardest guys to stop. He was tough on the... He was a bit like apparently the second coming of Joe Malone.
Well, I kind of feel like if you're going to pick him for those reasons, then why not pick Lomu? Because he wasn't better than Lomu at those things, was he? Lomu was the
But what I quite like
best.
is obviously the longevity that he's still playing now and he's still scoring tries in Super Rugby. He's obviously, because he obviously went through that stage where he wasn't getting in the New Zealand team, wasn't getting...
But he went to Toulon and he was absolutely shit.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of years when he was, like you said, like the next Lomu, but he wasn't quite Lomu. So why aren't we talking about Lomu?
Yeah, maybe. And Lomu is... Was Lomu nails though? I don't know. But yeah, so I had those. So who do we want as our wingers? Come on.
So I've got... So my two are Tuisova and Liam Williams. And yours are... Alessandro Tuilagi and Sevilla. So I would like to say...
Tuilagi is one.
Tuisova Tuilagi.
Yeah. Right, so we go to fullback. I've got two names and they're both Welsh and they're both for you. I got JPR.
I was going to say I got 3 letters, full stop.
And I've got Lee Halfpenny.
Yeah, okay.
So I think they both have a little bit of the same energy around them. Put their body on the line. Come on, body on the line.
On the line, yeah.
Last ditch tackles.
JPR had fucking aggressive energy. I don't even say.
No, maybe not.
Halfpenny would, he'd be the last line of defence. He'd do that really well, and he'd put his head where no one else would want to.
Yeah, and
JPR would love to fight massive South Africans, and with his lamb chops, just be fucking nuts.
And there's that story of him getting cut open on a Lions tour in South Africa, and then doing his own wound, isn't it?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's a doctor, isn't he? So he got his head, he got stamped on, his head cut open, and
He sewed himself up.
it's not during the game, like afterwards or whatever. But
that's
yeah, he
quite
sewed himself up because he's a doctor.
There's that. It feels like a bit cliche and cheesy to mention, but the 99 Lions Corps, he was the first there, even before most of the forwards, to try and fuck up some massive South Africans. But this feels like cheesy rugby folklore that I don't really want to get into.
Yeah, and like what I think we're sort of also forgetting is that he was an amazing rugby player. So he was nails, and like he was putting in big hits and all this, but he was also scoring amazing tries.
Well, didn't he score a try? There's something like I might be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure he played England about 10 or 11 times, which for that day was, loads. He beat them every time, and he scored a try against England most times he played them.
Yeah, and like I think,
which must have been so fun to be a fan around that era.
And the reason I chose Halfpenny was because we talked about being nails. You talking about taking hits and taking, being on the other end of big hits. He got up. He's a small man, especially in professional rugby. Got to be like 5'9" or something.
Under 6 foot.
And he would put his body on the line for Wales, whatever he did. Yes, it may have been coached out of him a little bit of the attacking flair and stuff. But he was one of the most committed. And I do sort of compare the two a little bit as fullbacks. As
thing is, though, do you remember first episode's scrum cap? We both had Halfpenny, but we were both a bit apologetic about it because it's such a boring choice. We can't go... Episode 4, we can't go double boring Halfpenny.
No. And I think nails...
JPR's fucking nails. Halfpenny is gutsy.
Yeah, gutsy. Yeah, okay.
Which is kind of part of the deal, but
yeah, okay. So
JPR is more obviously nails.
Right. So we've named our team.
I wasn't looking forward to this because I thought there must be people I'm missing. I wasn't convinced by my shouts. This is a fucking nails 15.
So who's going to be that captain?
Okay, right. Before we do this, are we basing it on who was the best leader or who was the hardest?
Who is the ultimate nails 15 player? JPR.
JP motherfucking R.
That is our nails 15. Thanks.
Oh, we bloody love rugby, so what do you think of this XP? Oh, we bloody love rugby, so what do you think of it?